Hello, Stephan here with Liquidity with a video about this strange German letter.
Liquidity.
In German, we have several names for this letter. One of them is scharfes S, which means sharp S. Another one is Eszett, which is based on one of the alternatives of spelling it with an S and a Z, which in German is Eszett. That doesn't explain, though, what it is, what it does, why it even exists. German is the only language, to the best of my knowledge, that has a letter that looks just like that. German is not the only language that has sibilants in it, obviously, or that has tried to figure out how to represent sibilant sounds with letters. But German is the only one that has one that looks like this. And this is all it is, really. It's a sibilant. This letter represents the S sound, which is, linguistically speaking, an unvoiced sibilant. Now, this sound, S, of course, exists in German and many, many other languages, and it usually is represented by the letter S. In fact, most of the time in English, when you see the letter S, it represents an unvoiced sibilant. There are a couple of exceptions to the rule. So, for instance, in English, when we have words where the sibilant or the S is couched or bookended by two vowels, it may actually turn into a voiced sibilant, a Z sound. For instance, we have words like rose, nose, or verbs like to raise, to lose. So in that case, you would think like, oh, why aren't we spelling that with a Z, since it's actually making the same sound that a Z represents in the English language, right? And that's exactly what the Z is for, to represent the voiced sibilant, the Z sound. In some rare cases, an S may also represent a sound that's actually a voiced SH sound, as in the word measure. So we have the zh sound, not a sh sound, but a zh sound. Unlike in English, this letter, which in English we call a Z or a Z, depending on what part of the English-speaking world you're in German, the letter that looks just like that is called a Z, and it's not at all pronounced like a Z, like a voiced sibilant. With the exception of a few loan words, it's always pronounced like a plosive. Basically, if you put a T and an S together, a T sound. It's a plosive, sort of, kind of sibilant, but more than that, because there's that T, that stop before. T, T. So what letter represents a voiced, a Z sound in German? In fact, this letter, S, pulls double duty in German. So depending on the position in a word, it can be pronounced like a sharp S, like an unvoiced sibilant, a S sound, or a voiced sibilant as in Z, or it can also be, in some cases, be like a sh sound. So in the beginning of words, if it is followed by a T or a P in standard German, it's actually a st or sp sound. Examples of the initial ST or SP combination would be common words like die Stadt, spielen, sprechen. If an S is followed by a vowel, almost all of the time it's pronounced like a voiced sibilant, like a Z sound. Examples are common words like so, die Sache, suchen, sicher. If an S is followed by a consonant, but it's not the beginning of a word, like Stadt or spielen, if it is in the middle of a word or at the end of a word, then it is pronounced like an unvoiced sibilant, like a S sound. Examples for that would be Rasten, die Kiste, das Kissen. And with that last one, kissen, we actually have a double consonant. So double S's are always pronounced unvoiced, always like a S sound. And technically it is an S followed by a consonant because S is also a consonant, right? This is where it gets interesting in German, because if I have a vowel that's followed by a double consonant, that vowel gets shortened. However, what if I have a long vowel that needs to be followed by an unvoiced sibilant, a S sound, and maybe on top of that, that sibilant is followed by another vowel, which would most definitely shorten it, right? So what do? And this is where the sharp S comes in. So the sharp S basically serves as a mitigator in this case. So if I have words like die Straße, which is a long A, if I were to spell that with a double S in order to make that unvoiced sibilant sound, the S sound, right, I would have to technically pronounce that Straße. So in German, we do have a handful of very commonly used words that have that unvoiced S sibilant in them and that follow a vowel or a vowel combination, a diphthong even, and where the vowel or the diphthong or the vowel combination is not shortened. So for instance, we have words like groß, weiß, die Straße, heiß, der Fuß. All of those words have a relatively long vowel. None of them have a short vowel, right? So it's not der Fuß, der Fuß. When I was growing up, there were still very strict rules. Those rules were changed. Those rules were made more flexible. Sharp S's can always be replaced with double S's now. In fact, Switzerland got rid of sharp S's completely. In Switzerland, they only have the double S's, regardless of whether the vowel before the double S is short or long. You just have to know. And this is where it gets a little bit more complicated, especially for learners of German. So now you just have to know. Up until about 20 years ago, you may also see sharp S be replaced by the letters SZ or SZ in German, which is why some people call it an Eszett. So official government documents may still have an SZ instead of a double S or a sharp S. It's just another way of spelling it. That has been discontinued. I still remember when I was doing my military service back in 1990 and 1991 that there were official documents, military documents, where the sharp S was always replaced by an S set. So you may wonder where that letter got its form from, or why we have that strange looking S. It is a strange looking letter, isn't it? It looks like a capital B with a little tail on it. However, it is actually a combination of a letter that is no longer used, not just in German, but also in many other languages that used to use it. In fact, a lot of old documents, including the Constitution of the United States of America, has a long S in it. You will see a long S that looks like this, used not only in older German documents, but also documents written in English and French and Italian and a bunch of other languages. Now, I'm not going to go into detail why that long S was used at all, and it depends really on the language a little bit, and then also people were kind of loose sometimes with the rules, how to apply the rules. Sometimes there were some very firm rules that actually made real sense. But let it suffice to say that there used to be a long S, not only in German, but in many other languages. And if you put together that long S with a regular S, you get something that looks like the sharp S or the Eszett. And this is where the Eszett got its form. It's basically a combination of those two letters. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Check out my other videos, see if there's something that you like. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so. Thanks for watching. Take care.